Emergency services remain at the scene of the fire at the Kutama-Sinthumule Correctional Facility in Louis Trichardt in Limpopo. Department of Correctional Services spokesperson Singabakho Nxumalo says a kitchen, a maintenance section and 2 inmate blocks are currently affected. The blocks house nearly 2,000 inmates. Nxumalo says that the inmates have been moved to a safe zone within the facility. For the latest, we are now joined by SABC senior reporter Mahlako Komane, who is currently monitoring that situation for us. A very good evening to you, Mahlako. All right, what do we have at the moment? I mean, do we know at this point what caused this fire? You know, we had heard rumors that it might have been the inmates themselves. Any confirmation of that, or do you have other information for us?
Yes, good evening, Flo. We are indeed still here at the prison in Kutama-Sinthumule, that prison. And in terms of what, just to answer your question, in terms of what the cause of that particular fire was, or the fire that broke out earlier on, we're not really sure. I'm just going to move out of this shot. I just want to show you where things are currently, how things are unfolding as we are here. There's still a lot of activity here. There's also a fire truck that would also come in, but you'd also see that police vehicles. I've seen, I think, 2 nyalas. But earlier on, Flo, we saw what you'd normally see during strikes in terms of, in fact, I actually can see them. I'm just not sure if you'll be able to see from where I'm standing in terms of where if our camera can be able to show that far. But you'll see there, those are, I think, guards, prison guards that are wearing the sort of like safety helmets. They've got those shields, those transparent shields that you'll see that are written, I think, Department of Correctional Services, as well as, I think, are they batons, if I remember correctly. I think that's what they call. In fact, a large number of them moved towards where I'm standing right now. Would be on my left-hand side of the prison. This is another block where third, if I can call it a third section, where we started seeing smoke coming up there that wasn't there when we arrived here earlier on. Here, what you I've spoken about the maintenance section and the kitchen section. That's where we had seen the fire there, and I think some explosions, probably from gas if it was a kitchen section. Yeah. Then that was contained. Later on, when we thought things were okay, we started seeing smoke from a third part. We then also spoke to residents who had told us that the flames we saw, that we had captured when we got here earlier on, it was the second set of smoke that went up. In fact, there was another block as well that when they arrived here, the residents had told us, because this is in a residential area, there was an initial smoke that had come up. So it would seem, I'm counting 1, 2, 3 parts where smoke had come up, with the middle one being where the flames went off. We saw firefighters earlier on just trying to contain that fire. It seems they have been able to do that. However, Flo, every now and again, every 15 minutes or so, you actually start hearing commotion or noise, if you may want to call it that. What I'm told, or I'm made to understand, is those are prisoners chanting. I can't make out. Earlier on, I'd made out a food chant, but right now there's another chant. I can't really make out what they were saying, the previous one that I'd heard. But then that's when we saw, dozens and dozens of those warders or security moving in that particular direction of the prison. You can actually see them. Renelo is just trying to get that. Some of them coming back out, where you can see there's movements there just by the cars there, the police cars. Those are just some of the men and women, I guess, that we saw moving towards where there was commotion, the third area of the smoke, Flo. But speaking to on the issue of authorities that are here, I'm made to understand the police, the provincial police commissioner, I understand, is here. She's waiting for another commissioner. I just didn't, get the name, but I understand that there's more, high authority, if you may call it that is coming, making their way to the prison. I'd also heard that I think the deputy minister was also coming, of correctional services, I think it's Justice and Correctional Service, was also coming here, or is coming here tomorrow morning. So hopefully from that we will then be able to get an actual idea or a number of, what are the injuries in terms of the fire breaking out, Flo. Because when we drove into Louis Trichardt this afternoon, I counted 3 ambulances driving at a very high speed with the lights on, with the sirens on, moving on the N1 south towards that Polokwane Butlokwa area. So and we came in, as we came into town, there was a 4th one that I also saw leaving. So you could see that what is normally not the busiest of towns was quite busy. That was very busy this afternoon with that. Then obviously as you drive into where the prison is, we are just behind a residential area. It was very full with residents here, explaining what they had seen and what they had heard.
Mahlako, from how you describe the officials and how they are dressed and armed, are we correct in assuming that they are indeed at this point in riot gear and had perhaps been preparing for what might have then been a riot? I mean, you're talking about the prisoners also chanting, so that would actually add, fire to the point that this whole thing was in fact, excuse the pun, that the fire was indeed started by the inmates themselves. And I know at this point you're not confirming anything because we are still trying to get to the bottom of it and to get more information, but it is leading that way. It seems that way, doesn't it?
Well, Flo, in terms of, let's maybe go back into 2017 where there was a prison break here. 4 prisoners, if I'm not mistaken, had managed to escape here at this particular prison. So there's a history here of, a history of, I don't want to call it a history of instability, but things have happened here at this particular prison. So then when you start asking, it's a small town. Louis Trichardt is a small town. What is it that is happening? I mean, there's many stories that are making the rounds. We are hoping, to get really official confirmation that is it really true that there was a complaint by the prisoners, as you are saying, because that is the rumor that's making the rounds right now, is that there was a sort of like a dissatisfaction of some sort or an unhappiness with inmates here. But right now, in terms of the statement that we got from correctional services, was that theirs was right now to see that there's been no loss of life. Theirs was to ensure that everybody's safe and everybody's accounted for. So we're really waiting for them to tell us, how did the fire start? Who started the fire? Who has access to making fires inside prisons? Those type of questions, because you'll understand and appreciate, the story that you just played previously of what happened there in the Free State when, fires break out in prisons. There's a bit of a trust deficit as to what happens inside, our prisons. So it would be quite important, and I'm really surprised that we haven't had a statement coming out from correctional services into, detailing, or even if not detailing, but giving an idea that is everything under control, what exactly led to the fire, is everybody still accounted for here, this being a prison where we had seen prisoners in 2017 that prisoners from here that escaped from the prison, this also being a residential area. When we spoke to residents earlier on, they said that some of them saying that they feel a little bit unsafe, but they're hopeful that correctional services will get to the bottom of what happened here and ensure that things go back to normal and they can enjoy their suburban life after everything that has happened here.